I'm Yvonne Hamoud, registered social worker and owner of New Moon Counseling, but out of the office, I'm a mom, wife, daughter, sister, and friend. Join me each week as I sit with a special guest to discuss everyday things that impact our mental health. We'll be chatting about everything from mental health and relationships to media and current events, as well as personal experiences and reflections, all in the hopes of normalizing our humanness and helping you see that you're not alone. This is Outside the Therapy Room. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Outside the Therapy Room. Today we have Ashley back for the third time. How's it going?
It's going.
Yeah, that's good. I'm so happy to have you here.
I am very honored to be appearing on this podcast for the third time. I feel like we're friends now.
Yeah, we're totally friends. This is just where we chat real deep about the things that we are interested in.
Entrepreneurial moms need to create business-oriented meetings in order to have a social life.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, there's that effort that we need to put in. And the last...
It was on friendship, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah, the very last one. This is us putting in the effort to try to connect with one another. But thank you so much for being here. This is so fun. It's always a good time when you're here. And today's topic, I do kind of want to give a trigger warning. We are starting part one of two-part conversation on infidelity.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that this topic brings up a lot of emotion. It can bring up a lot of pain. There's also a lot of curiosity in the topic and sometimes shame if this has been an experience that you've had. And so before we begin, I just want to acknowledge that if you've experienced betrayal, this conversation might feel a little tense. So just please take care of yourself as you listen. You can pause, you can stop, you can check out one of our other episodes if this one feels a little bit too heavy for you. But this episode isn't about excusing any harm or blaming the betrayed partner. It's more about understanding why infidelity happens so we can move on this kind of narrative that we can sometimes see in the media and into something maybe a little bit more honest and compassion. And again, with your experience in the work that you do, in all of the different kind of hats that you wear, Ashley, this is going to be, again, you have a different lens in the different hats that you're wearing. You are a therapist, you are a reverend, you are supporting a lot of couples. And so I thought your clinical lens in this would be great. So What are your thoughts on infidelity?
Well, I would like to preface it by saying that all of the infidelity that has come through my clinic and office has been with heterosexual couples. Mm-hmm. So if at any point in my storytelling or in my, not storytelling, but in my narrative breakdown, it sounds like I'm focusing primarily on hetero couples. It's just the patterns that I've seen in my practice in particular. Mm-hmm. I myself am also the child of parents who separated and divorced because of infidelity. Mm-hmm. I actually found it very healing in my undergrad, my fourth or fifth year. I did a fifth year in undergrad, to focus my thesis project on infidelity itself. And so I had just learned the information about my family. And so I was like, I'm diving into this from a very intellectual headspace. Yeah. Not at all felt, body, somatic, nothing, just heady, just straight on heady. Mm-hmm. And it was just a thesis, very basic, very kind of easy hypothesis on, higher risk-taking people are more likely to have affairs. So if you're engaging in more adrenaline-seeking behaviors like high-contact sports, bungee jumping, scuba diving, those kinds of things, then you're more likely to have an affair. But yeah, that was like my first experience of exploring infidelity as a topic. And now here I am just helping this influx of infidelity that seems to be exploding in our culture right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so you said very in your head about it, very intellectually looking at it. But it is, I mean, that this can be a whole, maybe we'll have a part 3 about how children of parents who were unfaithful ends up impacting the relationships. But we're going to just put that here and we're going to focus back on our topic. But when people hear the word infidelity, usually it's when they picture one specific thing. So there was a physical sexual betrayal. But in reality, it can look really different for each couple. So how would you define infidelity in your work?
Well, you kind of just hit the nail on the head with that. It's getting very clear on what infidelity is for each person. So it's essentially just a breach of any kind of agreed upon boundaries within a relationship. And the key word in that being agreed upon, right? Like no subliminal messaging, no, assumptions made. Because we have to remember that what counts for one person as being infidelity might not count for the other person. For some people, it's purely physical. For other people, it's very hurtful when there's emotional boundaries crossed. For others, even porn can kind of cross that line for being unfaithful. And I think the definition itself matters less when, or I shouldn't say matters less. The definition matters less than whether people are on the same page about what the agreements or the rules are within the relationship. And then the secret keeping that's involved, right?
Yeah.
I think the secret keeping is a huge piece. I've seen lots of couples recover from infidelity because the thing happened and then they addressed it right away.
Yeah. In a lot of the work that I do in couples therapy, we talk about relationship boundaries. And so this is the agreed upon boundary that both individuals are talking about in their relationship. And like you said, for one person, watching porn, being kind of even entering some of those chats, like that can feel completely innocent because physically they're not doing anything different. They'll call it inspiration for them and their partner, whereas the other partner may see that as an unfaithful moment or unfaithful behavior. And so it is really important to kind of understand each other's perspective and to understand kind of what the boundary is for the couple. But yeah, you touched on secrecy. And I think that's a big thing, because if things are kept secret for a long time, a lot of people are like, well, the last however many months or years have been a lie, because you haven't told me and it happened however many years ago. So do you find that the betrayal is more about the act itself or the secrecy around it?
I think that it's 100% individual. I think that some people, for some people, just the fact that it happened, that it crossed their partner's mind, that their partner acted on it, is enough to be absolutely not, I cannot handle it. And for other people, it's okay, I can empathize with the fact that you were, maybe consuming alcohol, or the setting was right, or you have a history with someone, and you're only human, and you told me right away, and so we can recover from that.
Yeah. Actually, if we can go for a moment, just so that our listeners kind of understand, you talked about, or I guess we talked about emotional, physical, and I guess online. So what do each of those look like when we're looking at it from like an unfaithful lens?
So in my practice, I've definitely seen all three of these. I would maybe even blend the online with emotional. But online can also, there's this weird experience of it being physical, but not physical, with picture sent and things like that. But physical affairs have probably been the most talked about for the longest period of time, because the term emotional affair really just came into the picture within the last couple decades, I would say. Nobody
Mm-hmm.
really knew what an emotional affair was before, I would even say, the 80s or 90s. But the classic, I met someone at work or I reconnected with an ex, those usually involve some combination of physical and emotional connection.
Mm-hmm.
But emotional affairs are also really huge right now, and they're often harder for the person having them to recognize them as an affair, because it's easy to say we're just friends, we've never touched each other, but the piece here is that they're sharing things with this person that they've promised only to share with their spouse or their partner, or they haven't shared with their partner. They're thinking about this person constantly. They're prioritizing relationships, this particular relationship over the marriage even.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be considered an affair. The other affair, not mentioned, is an object affair. And an
Mm-hmm.
object affair is essentially when you are prioritizing playing video games or your phone or I guess you could say like even sports, something that's not human. You're interacting with it the same way that you would interact with another person, or you're giving the attention that you could be giving to your partner to this other thing.
Yeah.
Cars is a good one. People, so unfortunately, stereotypically, men will spend hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours in the garage with their car and spend thousands of dollars on their car and not have taken their partner out for a dinner or a date, or not remembered their birthday or Mother's Day or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. Even just in media, we're seeing an emotional affair a lot more than I think we were previously. Physical is definitely the kind of betrayal we see in media a lot, and I think for some people, when they are engaged in an emotional affair, which is like this person is meeting all of the needs that you have, you feel validated and nurtured and supported, and all of these things, which is important in a friendship and kind of those things, but there is a slight boundary. And I think a lot of the times, especially in my work, when I have seen people kind of going down that line, there is a form of secrecy. They don't want to communicate with their partner that they talked to their ex or that they talked to this coworker. It is still somewhere deep in there. It's still like, I need to keep this a secret because my partner's going to be upset if they know that I'm talking to this person about these things. And so I think the emotional infidelity piece can be a little bit hard to understand. Yeah, and I think with the emotional affair, the person who's engaging in an emotional affair is defending themselves by saying, like, I have still been physically faithful to you. I haven't slept with anybody else, haven't touched anyone else. It's all been you. But a lot of that is coming more from a mental, emotional place where they are seeking this kind of support from another person.
Yes. Yes. And I think that sometimes in the instances of, like gaming platforms or social media, like we build these parasocial relationships with people, not
Mm-hmm.
even, I mean, yeah, parasocial. Um, Maybe the other person doesn't even really recognize or find you significant in their life, but they're playing this part. But what you're giving to that other person is all of your intimate resources that you could be
Mm-hmm.
spending and using on your partner.
Yeah.
Um, I do think that a common response when the betrayed partner finds out is they hear things like, it wasn't real, we never actually met, but it was real enough because the emotional investment was real,
Yeah.
and the secrecy was real. So the betrayal then becomes real.
Too. Like if we're talking about like even emotional or online, there is this longing of like, oh, I want to talk to this person. I'm going to make the time and effort and energy to go and seek this person or to chat with this person online. So there is a lot of that. But I think we're talking there's two types of betrayal that are happening. It's the act and then the secrecy piece of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, why do you think partners often have a different definition of what counts as cheating?
Well, I mean, there's lots of layers to that because we're going to bring our own histories and our own baggage into every kind of working definition of anything, really. So your own experiences, your values, maybe even your attachment style, probably most definitely your attachment style. Maybe someone who grew up in a family where emotional closeness was not commonplace and didn't see emotional intimacy. Maybe didn't see what it looked like to have positive friendships with people and where boundaries existed. Someone who was cheated on in a past relationship might have a broader definition of what crosses the line. Maybe that's out of control or fear that it's going to happen again. But honestly, a lot of couples never actually have this conversation explicitly. No one is going out on a first or second date and saying, okay, like I really need to know your definition of infidelity and unfaithfulness and like what is non-negotiable. I mean, a lot of the clients that I have that are women on dating apps, they do start trying to discuss that as they're getting to know someone online, which is lovely.
Yeah, that is great.
But essentially, I think when you get caught up in the lust of dating someone, you just really assume that you're on the same page without checking. And then something happens suddenly, and then, you're in a therapy office and had a completely different understanding of what boundaries look like. So,
yeah.
If you hear something like, I didn't think this counted, or you never said I couldn't do this, and maybe, technically they didn't, but the betrayed partner feels like certain things should be obvious, then that kind of speaks to a deeper gap in understanding where the pain lives in each individual person and what they're not talking about as a couple.
Yeah. There are some friends that I have and also clients who are kind of at the beginning stages of dating. So whether that's online dating, or, non-online, real life dating or whatever you want to call it, that at the beginning you're right. Like they don't have those conversations. And if somebody is kind of dating and seeing a lot of people at the beginning so they can, kind of assess and see who they want to actually see exclusively, there is a lot of this gray area. And I've had mostly, and I don't, a lot of people that come to me are like, okay, I don't know if it's too soon to have the exclusive conversation, but they're the only ones that I'm seeing, but I know they're seeing other people. And so things can get a little bit cloudy. And you're right, what's an organic kind of way to bring up the conversation around each person's boundary around cheating or their definition of being unfaithful. It is tricky, but it is an important conversation to have at some point in your relationship, whether that's at the beginning, middle, somewhere around there. It's important to kind of just have your cards on the table and be able to communicate about that. One very common question people ask is, why would someone cheat if they love their partner? And I think that question shows just how confusing the experience can be. A great media example is Sex and the City, the movie, where Cynthia's husband ends up cheating on her, but he loves her. It was just sex, and he tells her right after, and she gets all upset, and she ends up ending. So they end up breaking up, but a lot of her friends kind of encouraged her to not do that because there was still a lot of love. It was just the physical that he was missing and needed. So it is very confusing. It's very confusing to know why somebody who loves somebody so much would hurt them in that way. So I guess in your experience, what are some common reasons people cheat?
I mean, I think it can essentially boil down to one of two things: unmet needs or identity loss. So if we're looking at unmet needs, I would say that feels very targeted to the partner. if we're looking at identity loss, that's the person's thing. Like someone might feel invisible in their relationship, or they might feel like they've lost themselves in their role, whether they're a parent or whether they're the provider in the relationship, or they're seeking something that they don't even really know how to articulate that they're missing. And then when they meet someone else, that's reflected back to them. And they're like, oh, wow, I really want that in my marriage and I can't get that. How do I ask for that? But it's, I would say, you know, it's rarely about the affair partner, we'll call them, being, for lack of a better phrase, like objectively better or more attractive than their partner. It's kind of more what that person represents, what the person that the affair partner is with. So the I don't know what to call them, whoever they're having the affair with. I'm sure there's a term. That person represents freedom, and they represent excitement and being seen and feeling desired and feeling like yourself again, instead of just, you know, going home, cleaning up, parenting, going to bed, doing it all over again, like that Groundhog Day thing. And that's why we often talk about the, you know, affair cloud or the affair haze, where it's almost living in this parallel universe of lust and adrenaline and excitement. And you know what? To be quite fair, some people just cheat because they can. Like there are literally just some people out there that say the opportunity presented itself, and the barriers that would normally stop them weren't strong enough in that moment. And they did it because they could do it and didn't think that their partner would ever find out. And it is what it is.
Yeah.
Which sucks. And the thing that I always say when people come to therapy wanting to work on their relationship after an affair is, I am not here to say the infidelity was good or bad. It just is. Right? It depends on what you want to do with it. If I sit here and say that was bad, how that's not going to help the person who had the affair move forward.
Yeah.
If that's the goal, right? I also want to take time to validate the pain and the suffering that their partner went through. And I want them to have the ability to articulate that pain in front of the person that had the affair, obviously. But when we begin to categorize an affair as good or bad for the purpose of repairing a relationship, then in the therapeutic setting, that's not going to get very far.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think like the 2 points that you mentioned, the lack of needs being met and the identity piece, like what does the identity piece look like? I know you mentioned kind of like, you know, when we're feeling, what's the word? Like retained. I don't know if that's the right word, but I'm going to use that. If we're feeling retained in our day to day, where we're feeling kind of like we're stuck in this Groundhog Day, kind of having, you know, a little corner of your life be exciting, be again, like what you were mentioned with all of the adrenaline, that can seem, you know, very attractive to some people. A little bit of change, and then I come back to my family and I'm able to be more present. I'm able to do all of these things because that need is getting met, because I'm feeling like myself again, or like myself who I was back this time, or whatever it could be. But I think, yeah, and so many, okay, my thoughts are too much that I can't get them all out and organized, but I think there's a lot of opinions. And I think sometimes, one or both parties want to feel validated in their actions or in their pain. And so they, you know, for the person that was cheated on, they, one, might want to talk to somebody like a friend or a therapist about it so they feel validated for the hurt and the pain that they're suffering. But at the same time, there can be a lot of shame that they feel and they don't want to talk about it at all. And this is maybe like a part two topic that we're kind of getting into, but I think also for the person who was unfaithful, they also are looking for that validation and a space to communicate their own pain, because I think a lot of the times we see betrayal as like somebody cheating, but there's so many different forms of betrayal, and we're not blaming anybody, but there are different kind of promises that we make at the beginning of a relationship that we end up, not being able to meet those. And instead of communicating about it and kind of checking in with your partner about, okay, this is how I'm feeling like this, I'm not like this anymore, this is what I'm needing from our relationship, I think a lot of times we seek external kind of support in that way. And then, yeah, like why people cheat, there's so many. It's a whole thing, and it really can be very individual.
And I've even sat with some couples where, the partner having the affair has looked their partner in the face and said, I don't know how many times I came to you and said, I need this. I need this. I need this so badly. I need you to see me. I need you to understand me. And not once did you engage in conversation or become curious or, understand my hurt, or try to anyways. And I don't want to give up the life that we have. I don't want to give up my kids or access to my kids. I don't want to give up my home. I don't want either of us having to live off of less income than we currently are. And so being able to find an outlet to meet my needs and then come home and be like, tell me I haven't been the best partner ever recently, and tell me I haven't shown up. And it hasn't, maybe, in this particular circumstance, it could have been out of guilt, but there maybe was some guilt, but there was also just a being rejuvenated feeling. And again, this is not condoning the behavior. It's just identifying that people are human.
Yeah. So how do you think attachment styles show up in infidelity?
Well, I kind of mentioned that. I said it before and realized after I said it that attachment actually plays a pretty huge part in the role of or the impact of somebody being unfaithful. Usually people with anxious attachment will cheat. I think maybe the assumption is that they wouldn't cheat, but I think that they would cheat when they feel their partner pulling away.
It's like protest behavior.
Yeah, like a preemptive strike against abandonment kind of thing. And they're more terrified of being left or abandoned, and so they kind of create this backup plan, which anxious people usually do, but anxious attachment for sure. Or they're going to do something like seek validation from someone else to kind of soothe their anxiety, be their self-soothing mechanism or co-regulating piece if their partner isn't reaching out to soothe them. And we have to, make the assumption that for the most part, if somebody is anxiously attached just due to polarity and magnetism, they're going to find an avoidant partner. And avoidant attachment would show up differently. Avoidantly attached people are going to be the people who cheat because the closeness of intimacy might feel suffocating, or the relationship is too demanding or too close and they kind of need that escape hatch. And the affair partner is going, or the person that they're having an affair with is going to help create distance without them having to actually end the primary committed relationship. And it's going to be a way to regulate intimacy, while also avoiding any kind of conflict that would come up if they were to address their partner with their concerns. So, I mean, I guess there's also disorganized attachment, which is, if you don't know, people listening, it's just a kind of like a mix of anxious and avoidant, and can show up as more of those like chaotic affairs where people want closeness, but they also fear closeness. And maybe they have multiple affairs, or they cycle between maybe intense guilt and justification and why they had the affair. But it's becomes messy. More often than not, these are the instances where like substance abuse is involved in the affairs themselves. Yeah.
Yeah, so it sounds like there is quite a role that attachment style kind of has on infidelity. And I think with attachment styles, underneath that, there's a lot of conversations we have on how attachment styles were built. And a lot of the time that's, the role of trauma, of unmet emotional needs, or kind of having like identity shifts or masking that happens at some point in a person's life. And so what role do these things have at play when it comes to infidelity? So trauma, unmet emotional needs, or any kind of identity shifts.
I would say like if you're someone that learned early on that relationships aren't safe or that your needs don't matter based on the relationship with your parents that you had, you're probably going to struggle with vulnerability and you're probably going to struggle with trust. So an affair can become a way to meet your needs, but also keep the emotional risk involved pretty low.
Yeah.
Unmet emotional needs in affairs are probably more times than not part of the narrative and part of the story. Again, that does not excuse an affair. There are definitely healthier ways to address unmet needs, but it's usually a part of it. So someone might feel lonely or disconnected or unseen, and they don't really know how to ask. They don't know how to articulate or how to formulate a question or formulate a discussion on describing what their needs are, or maybe they've even asked and nothing's changed. And so an affair would just fill that gap. But in terms of identity shifts, I don't think it's uncommon that we see affairs happen, particularly for men at that crux of midlife, right? There's that stereotype of like, oh, he's having a midlife crisis. He had an affair. He went out and bought a sports car, yada, yada, yada. But I would also say that becoming a parent is a big one, and people lose themselves and they stop being individuals and they start becoming mom or dad or parent. And maybe that means spending more time at work to avoid the responsibilities at home, or diving into hobbies, that kind of thing. But work in general can also trigger this. Being promoted or losing a job, kind of realizing where that you're not where you thought you'd be in life at this point. And affairs often happen when someone is trying to reclaim a part of themselves that they feel like that they've lost. And interesting with Facebook, I find a lot of circumstances arise with Facebook when it's like a high school boyfriend or girlfriend, and this person has been married for 40 or 50 years and the marriage isn't going well, and suddenly their high school partner adds them to Facebook, and now they're reminiscing, and now there's all this nostalgia, and it brings back these feelings and memories, and it feels like it would be greener on the other side.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so much. There's so much there. And it's hard. We're talking about things very generally.
Yes.
It's really hard to, fully pinpoint. And this is where therapy can be so helpful, to really understand each couple and their past, their unmet needs, their trauma, their experiences, their attachment style for the infidelity that happened. Yeah. What myths about cheating do you wish people would let go of?
I think the first one that comes to mind is that affairs only happen in bad marriages where people are unhappy. Because that's just not true.
Yeah.
I've seen affairs happen between couples who are so in love, maybe on the outside. I mean, even in session, they've expressed their love and connection with one another, who have even had good communication. Affairs can happen with anyone, anywhere, because they're usually, again, about the individual's internal state rather than the quality of the relationship themselves. So that would probably be the first one. The second one, which comes up quite often in the hurt that's experienced, is that the person that they had an affair with is somehow objectively better than the partner. So if we, get specific, we could say she's skinnier than me, she has blonde hair, she has bigger breasts, she's not strapped down with kids, and here I am as a mom who has baby weight, and I'm newly postpartum, and I'm not young and vibrant feeling, and I don't have this ability to just get up and do exciting things, nor do I want to. And so that comparison sets in. And it's easy to start comparing, but people just imagine that the other woman is more beautiful or more fun or more exciting. And maybe that's true sometimes. Maybe that's exactly what the partner is projecting in themselves. Like, they miss the exciting parts of themselves, so they want to find an affair partner that represents all of that. But more often than not, the partner is just different. Not better, not hotter, not more anything. She's just different, or he's just different. And the affair partner would represent something that the spouse can't represent, because the spouse is not, the spouse is not carrying, or the affair partner is not carrying the real weight of what life is like as a family unit, let's say.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there any other myths?
I mean, to kind of back off of that, go off of that, I would say that if the idea that if somebody cheats on you, that you're not enough.
Yeah.
I think what often is said in sessions is, what's wrong with me? Again, in that comparison thing, like, what didn't I give them? But again, you could literally be everything and someone still might cheat, because it's not often about what you didn't do. It's what they need to work through themselves, and how they manage their own discomfort.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you think of any?
No, because a lot of the ones that you mentioned were ones I was thinking about too. And it is a lot of like, with the second myth that you mentioned of like this comparison that we're human, we can naturally kind of get into if we know who the affair partner was. But I think that touches to a lot of our own insecurities. And so we look at that when really that's not always the thing that we need to be looking at. But I think also, like what you pointed out, a lot of the times we end up internalizing it and being like, well, clearly I'm doing something wrong. If my partner cheated, I'm not enough. I wasn't enough for him sexually or physically, or now I have kids, I look this way. Again, those insecurities come up. But there is that reality that a lot of the time it has little to do with the partner, and a lot more to do with the person who had the affair and their own things that they're experiencing. And so, no, I think the myths that you mentioned are ones that I would have said as well. Yeah. I think another thing we need to look at is that infidelity doesn't just impact the relationship, it impacts people on like a nervous system level, especially in that moment and as they're working through their relationship or after, whatever kind of happens at like that moment. So boom, here's the information. I cheated on you. This is what happened. Some people want to have a lot of information. Other people are like, don't tell me anymore. And then usually there's conversations and decisions made after.
Mm-hmm.
But I think our nervous system right in that moment then is activated. So what do you typically see emotionally for the partner who has been betrayed?
Well, I'm a big fan of nervous system state and attachment style kind of operating hand in hand. But typically, there's devastation.
Yeah.
Typically, there's shock. I mean, even for the people who 9 times out of 10 will say, like, I knew this was coming. I knew it. I could smell it. I could feel it in my bones.
Mm.
I just suspected it based on these like micro shifts and changes, but there's still shock.
Yeah.
But most betrayed partners, I think, describe it as a feeling like their entire life or their entire reality has kind of been shattered.
Mm-hmm.
So that everything they kind of knew about their partner, about their marriage, maybe even about themselves, they're questioning. They're having like an existential crisis, really.
Yeah.
I've also seen rage.
Oh, yeah.
At the partner who cheated and at the affair partner, and I think that rage is kind of what's portrayed most in Hollywood. I think there's even internal self-pointed rage that they didn't see it sooner and they feel humiliated and why didn't they connect the dots? But what we know about anger and rage is that that's grief. It's a stage and phase of grief, right? So there's a grieving of the relationship that they thought they had. There is a grieving of the future that they thought they were building, or a version of their partner that they thought they knew. But humiliation for sure, especially when it's, part of your social circle or part of the work culture, and there are other people who know you and know that maybe it was happening. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Just like a lot of mixed emotions that can definitely happen and that person can feel. Why do you think that infidelity, I mean, you just touched on it, but to add to that, why does infidelity often feel like really traumatic rather than just hurtful? And I think communicating it as like an existential kind of, crisis that they're in, it's shattered their whole life, their future life, right? We're dealing with all of the grief of what things could have looked like. But yeah, why do you think it often feels traumatic?
Because it is traumatic.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, like, when you find out that there's been an affair and maybe there's like a whole secret life, maybe your brain goes into threat mode. Your nervous system again is like activated. You can't sleep, you can't eat, you're hypervigilant, checking phones, looking for signs even after they've come clean. You're kind of replaying past moments.
Mm-hmm.
So going through like, okay, well, what about that time that you said that you had to work late? Were you actually working late? Like, I feel so stupid. I stayed up. I made you dinner. I made sure the kids were in bed. I told the kids that you were just working late. Like, I made up all these excuses for you. Was that one of the times? Yeah, it was. So betrayal trauma is a real thing. For sure it is. And we can't chalk it up to being sad or hurt, because that's not what it is. And I think that there's some, social media dynamics that try to make it seem like, buck up, cheer up, move on kind of thing. But your brain is really just trying to make sense of a reality that no longer makes sense to you. And the person that you trusted has revealed themselves to be untrustworthy. And this is going to create rupture in your sense of safety. If you think about it, the concept of safety, emotional safety, even the idea of, if I feel unsafe essentially when my partner doesn't put their socks in the laundry basket over and over and over, even though I've asked, if something to that degree can rattle my sense of emotional safety, what is this going to do?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So we also have to remember that this trauma response is going to last a while. You're going to have intrusive thoughts. You're going to have flashbacks. You might have panic attacks. You might have nightmares, and you're not broken. There's nothing wrong with you because you're experiencing those things, but they're definitely a sign that your brain is trying to process a profound threat to your emotional safety.
Yeah. Yeah. And obviously the act itself is very traumatic, but I think that again, and maybe I'm narrowing it down a little too much, but I think a lot of times there's factors that can add to the feeling of betrayal, like if there's betrayal from both the partner and the affair partner.
Yeah.
If it's with a friend, a family member, somebody that you know that's in your close circle, now you're dealing with two traumatic two trusted people that is now completely breaking. If this has been happening, if it's not just a one-off, if it's been happening often enough or numerous times within a certain period, that is also an addition to this betrayal. And kind of like you pointed out, did it happen this time when I was doing this, when I made up these excuses for you? And I think also if we learn through disclosure that the infidelity happened and other people that you know knew about it and they didn't tell you, there's also that addition. So there's a lot of factors that kind of play into the feelings of betrayal, not just from the partner, but from everyone else that was kind of around or circulating the act itself.
Yeah, almost like the enablers.
Yeah, yes. And so that, again, that can just put things on a very shaky ground. And I do think, for our listeners, if they have experienced this before, like you pointed out, there's nothing wrong with you, that your body is processing things in this way. And we can want to escape that, and we can go into unhealthy coping strategies because we want our brain to stop replaying this mini movie that we made about the infidelity based on what our partner disclosed to us. We wanted more information. How did you touch her? Where were you? What did you do? Did you initiate, or did they? Like, all of these kinds of questions that we may ask are now just kind of being replayed in our mind because we're literally trying to understand what the heck just happened and how we could have missed it. And so it's very, very normal. It's very tough when you're experiencing all of these things on your own, along with all your other life responsibilities. So it's just a lot. So I hope that in some way people are feeling validated by that, but also that you're, holding some space for yourself if this has been an experience that you've had before. We've talked a lot about shame and guilt, but how do you think these emotions, along with defensiveness or minimization, show up in the disclosure?
So, well, all of those things show up: guilt, defensiveness, minimization. Minimization is huge, I think. Probably minimization would be huge right off the bat. Like, it was only a few times, we only kissed. It wasn't like we had sex. It was just texting, or it didn't mean anything. But shame does make people hide. I will say that shame, the parallel between men and shame is very intense. Men just experience shame on a different level. And so the shame involved in that is probably going to make them shut down emotionally because they can't necessarily tolerate being seen as the person who caused the pain and suffering to the person that they love. That's going to look like maybe like avoiding harder conversations, or maybe even getting irritated when their partner keeps asking questions. Like, we do see that a lot. We see it a lot where it's like, I don't understand why you need more information. I don't understand why I have to keep replaying this. Can't we just get over this? Can't we sweep this under the rug? And that's not them saying, I don't care about your feelings. That's them saying, I don't know how to sit with this overwhelming shame that I've never learned to work through. So until the person who cheated can move through their own shame and their own defensiveness and actually sit with how uncomfortable it makes them feel seeing the hurt that they've caused, they can't really start. I mean, it sounds very black and white to say you can't start the healing process, but there's going to be a limit to how much healing you're going to be able to do if you can't sit with your own discomfort. But the betrayed partner definitely needs to be able to see a genuine remorse from their partner, not just, I'm sorry I did this to you, or I'm sorry you caught me, or I'm sorry I hurt you. There needs to be like a full ownership without any caveats, without any justification. And then like the real work can start.
Yeah. And I think on the other hand, for the betrayed partner, depending on what the outcome is going to be, like after the disclosure, there are still feelings of shame, but those feelings of shame may be shame in what their relationship is going to now be perceived as, or how they are going to be perceived as by, like, from their social circle or their family, or still some, like, form of protection for their partner's perspective, like, how they're perceived by other people. And so it can be really isolating and lonely to kind of just sit with it on your own, when you're feeling all of these complex emotions, for what it could look like. And something that, again, a lot of, and you touched on it too, is like, I feel so stupid. Like, how did I not see this? A lot of that kind of self-blame. And after disclosure, again, depending on what the outcome is, or what the couple I guess what the couple's goals are for their relationship after the disclosure, it can, just the support circle that the betrayed partner ends up seeking can definitely change, and it can be a very small one. But yeah.
I think there's a huge piece to the suffering in the experience with the partner themselves. And then the person who has been cheated on, tends to go to their loved ones and their friendship circles to say, like, I'm suffering. I'm so sad. I'm having a hard time. Their goal might not be to end the relationship. Their goal might not be to divorce or separate or whatever the case may be. But I think that depending on the support circle, you have to be very careful with who you're seeking support in, because there's a lot of rigid beliefs around infidelity and affairs. And so even just, going to your parents to say, we just, I'm grieving, I've just gone through this. And your parents' first response is like, well, you need to sell the house, and you need to divorce, and you need to get a lawyer, and blah, blah, blah. And that does not help anyone ever.
Yeah.
If somebody's coming to you and saying, my partner cheated and I want to leave, then perhaps it's your job to say, how can I help? What kind of assistance? Do you need legal support? Can I help you do the paperwork? That kind of stuff. But if they're really just coming to you for you to hold space for you, especially as their parents, to say, wow, this is really hard. Take all the time you need. We're here for you. Let us make you dinners. Let us, take the kids when we can. Maybe you need to go to couples therapy and we can entertain the kids, or date nights, or whatever the case may be. Like, let me connect you with our, community mentor program, or a women's circle, or, your church pastor, or whatever the case may be. Being able to, I guess that would be like a great topic, is like, how do you support someone who's been through an affair as someone, as an outsider? Like, how do you offer that kind of support without giving them the opportunity to change their mind? Because I can't remember if you guys talked about this in the friendship episode, but as friends, we want to like match the emotion that our friend is bringing, right? Like, oh my God, he just cheated on me. And you're like, oh my God, get the pitchforks. Like,
Got the
let's
baseball
go.
bat.
Yeah. Let's get this. Turn on the country music and let's go find Earl. But making it very clear ahead of time, like, just so you know, I'm following your lead. So don't think that if you're angry now, I'm going to help you feel that anger. I'm going to hold space. I'm going to get mad with you if that's what you need. But if next week you come to me and you say, hey, I think I'm going to work it out, I'm going to be like, yeah, girl, like, let's do this. What do you need from me? Again, I'm just going to match whatever makes sense for you in the context that you're in at that time.
Yeah. And asking, like, what do you need from me, instead of putting in our own expectations or stuff. But that's okay. Maybe this is another topic that we need to add to the parts on infidelity. But I believe, like, that would be so hard. Even just you saying that, if I had a friend come to me, I'd be like, frick, I freaking hate that guy. Let's go. Let's go punch him. Like, let's go hit him. Let's run him over.
Yvonne punching someone? I don't know.
But like, you care so deeply about that person, and they're telling you that somebody did them wrong and somebody hurt them. So that initial kind of it's totally fair, it totally makes sense. And we need to put that to the side or joke with it and then be like, okay, like, what do you want to do? You take the lead and I'm here to support you. But it can be hard for a friend to navigate their own emotions based on the relationship that they have, or a family member, sibling, whoever their support system is.
It reminds me of postpartum too, is like that shock and grief have set in, and maybe your friend doesn't know how to articulate what they need.
Yeah.
So you're going to say, what do you need from me? And they're going to be like, I don't know. Like, my entire world has just been upside down. I don't know what to start with. My number one thing is, no matter what hardship somebody is going through in life, just start with food.
Yes.
Just like start with a meal.
Basic self-care, just food, sleep, hydration. Yeah.
That's it. If you don't know what to do, in my head, I'm like, well, if my best friend got cheated on, and obviously if they're a person that's close to me, I was probably semi-close to their husband or partner as well.
Yeah.
And so thinking about it from the lens of like, this family unit is suffering. So how can I, bring a meal so that the kids are having nourishing food, so that she's having nourishing foods, but not being afraid like how that's going to make him feel if I drop off a meal. Like, that's not my problem, but also he's benefiting from having a meal there too. So it gives them more time to be able to sit and process with each other than scrambling over making food, let's say.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's really good. And again, just a little bit of tidbits for, support people, like the people, I guess, the support group of somebody who is going through this kind of betrayal. But yeah, I think overall, to summarize it, like, infidelity is rarely just about sex and attraction. It's often much deeper, emotional patterns, unmet needs, attachment, disconnection, without I guess, like it still hurts the relationship, and every kind of situation is different, but it's a lot more complex than just sex and attraction.
Yeah. And I will also include kind of like a fine print on abusive relationships are different. Like, I'm not talking about abusive relationships in this. I'm talking about, your standard run of the mill white picket fence type of relationship. Abusive relationships, affairs are, again, we're going to see more disorganized attachment. But if we're talking about narcissistic abuse, any kind of abuse really, affairs are used as a control tactic, a way to keep somebody small, a way to keep them guessing. And so that's a completely separate topic. So I won't get into that, but this is not that.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for just recognizing that. Yeah. The conversation today was just general on infidelity, and abuse is a completely separate thing. But thank you so much for being here. Are there any last thoughts you want to leave our listeners with on this topic?
I would say, like, if you are someone going to your therapist, this is like outing us as therapists. we are there to support you. And I've had so many times where I've been like, oh my God, what? Okay, let's figure out how we're going to do this. I can't believe he cheated on you. But I always say to my clients, what's important to me is important to you. So if right now you're having a rage hate on session, I'm here for you. That's cool. Let's do this. But please don't be embarrassed to send me an email and say, hey, I think I'm going to, keep the marriage going. Please, there's zero judgment at all.
Yeah.
Like, I'm here to help you reach your therapeutic goals, whatever those are. They're not for me to tell you what they are.
Yeah, it's your session, your life, and we're just here to support you. So yeah, I second that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I just want to point out that I keep saying this on my social media, but like, I have never seen this much infidelity as I have seen. 2025 brought so much infidelity. I don't know if that is because of COVID and people working from home and then being put back into the workplace and feeling like that newness because of the Groundhog Day experience at home and working from home and not having an escape. I don't know if it's that. I don't know if it's the use of platforms like OnlyFans or if it's just use of phones in general and the dopamine seeking that people are doing. I don't know. I don't know if it's, I mean, I think it all has to do with social media or technology to some degree.
Yeah.
Maybe it's even my content included. Maybe it's even going on social media and seeing all of this influx of like how men should be, how women should be, and then looking at your partner and going, well, you're not any of this. And so I'm automatically not happy. Realistic
or
expectations.
books and like books, movies, like we talked about, in one of our previous episodes. Like there's this fantasy that we can get in terms of what we consume, and we see that as this is real. Why don't I have it? And then there's a lot of different factors, and we might never know why 2025 was so high for infidelity, but I think, we're here to support. It's a lot more complex, and each individual and couple is going to experience that differently. But I think this is part one. So part two, we're going to talk a little bit more. I mean, you guys got little nuggets of I guess part two content, but part two is going to focus on, okay, what do we do now? Kind of like should I stay or should I go? And there is no right or wrong answer. It's so independent to the couple, the disclosure, the effort that the couple is making to regain trust with one another. And so we're going to discuss that in a couple of weeks. So make sure you stay tuned for that. And like I mentioned, maybe we'll have a part three. Maybe this will just be a series because this topic is so broad, so huge, but very, very impactful and real to what some of our clients are experiencing.
Yeah. And if anybody has any questions about any of it, maybe just like reach out to Yvonne or I. And, obviously if they bypass therapeutic content, but if there's questions that you want to have answered on part two, even better.
We'll put it in a show note, a space for you to kind of click a link and go and send us a message. Where can people find you? You've been here 3 times. People know where you are, but just to share in case there's any new listeners.
Yeah, I am obviously spending way too much time on social media, but my ministry, so I'm again a reverend, and wedding season is coming. I have quite a few handfuls of weddings that I'm organizing already. But that is at Heart and Hearth Ministry. And my clinic is mindonlinetherapy.ca, or I think it's mindonline.ca at mindonline.ca. And my Rogue Therapy account is at therogue.therapist. My website is www.mindonline.ca. Do people say www? They just say mindonline.ca. Mindonline.ca. Nobody does the www anymore.
We'll do it. It's fun.
I actually have, speaking of infidelity, I actually have a single moms group that's coming up in February. And it's not trauma dumping by any means, but we go through 6 weeks of content where you're essentially just going to work through topics, nervous system based, some topics around dating, how to help yourself, how to help your kids. I am not a single mom, so I had some, imposter syndrome around running this group, but it was requested. So I was like, okay,
Amazing.
I can do this.
We'll pop a link is it still open?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. We'll pop a link for it. So any single moms out there, if you're interested in this group, Ashley's amazing. It sounds like you would run an amazing group. So make sure to check that out. We'll include the link in the show notes.
Perfect.
Okay, awesome. Thanks everyone for being here. And yeah, we'll see you soon. Take care. Bye. Thank you for listening to Outside the Therapy Room. This podcast is intended for educational and entertainment purposes only. If you reside in Ontario and are interested in working with one of our therapists, please visit our website in the show notes. If you reside outside of Ontario, a quick Google search or search through Psychology Today will help you find a therapist near you.